The janitor wasn't focused on cleaning. Instead, he was staring at the books on the shelf. The professor noticed but didn't scold him. He gave him a test instead. He handed the man a pair of tongs, asking him to pick up a test tube. The man did it easily, his hand steady. The professor then told him to use his left hand. To his surprise, the man still picked it up smoothly and placed it back on the rack. Then he picked up 2 rubber stoppers and returned them perfectly. The professor was shocked. This man was a natural for surgery. Vivian used his talent to earn a doctor's coat. It was his childhood dream. The next day, the professor drew a line on a test dog's belly and asked Vivian to cut it open. Even though it was his first time, Vivian did great. The professor planned to inject blood to keep the dog alive. As the blood flowed and the dog's blood pressure rose, the experiment was a success. The professor asked Vivian for the recorder. Vivian didn't know what that was. The professor got angry and blamed him. Vivian took off his coat and left. Then the professor found Vivian's notes. They were even better than a recording.
Vivian?
He grabbed the coat, ran after him and asked him to stay. Vivian agreed. 12 years later, the professor brought Vivian to Johns Hopkins Hospital. Everyone was shocked by how Vivian was dressed. While cleaning the lab, a professor threw him money and told him to buy coffee. Vivian handed the money back right away. There was a baby girl who lived in an oxygen tank since birth. Her blood vessels to the lungs were too narrow. Her skin was purple-blue. Her mother cried every day. She couldn't even hold her. The professor took on her case. They were going to fix the narrow vessels. They planned to reroute blood from other arteries to the lungs. This would fix the problem. It was the best solution but a very difficult surgery. This gave the baby a chance to live. During practice, Vivian was in charge of stitching vessels. The professor saw his hands moved like magic. On the day of the surgery, the professor was lead surgeon. Vivian wasn't allowed in the room. This was the first heart bypass surgery ever. The professor stood frozen. He left the table and asked for Vivian. Hospital rules said Vivian couldn't take part, but the professor made an announcement and called him in. When Vivian stepped up, everyone watching was stunned. With Vivian there, the professor regained his focus. The baby was put to sleep and the surgery began. A nurse accidentally hit the light. The distraction caused a small mistake. Tension grew. The professor quickly stopped the bleeding. They reached the stitching stage. With Vivian's help, the stitching went smoothly. The baby's skin turned normal, and her blood pressure rose. He had completed the first successful bypass surgery. Years later, Vivian had his own office. The professor's portrait hung in the hall, respected by all. Vivian also received the highest honor from Johns Hopkins. Not only that he earned a portrait of his own, he spent his whole life earning everyone's respect. He never thought he'd be honored like the others. Looking at the professor who guided him all the way, Vivian felt deeply moved.